This is Solagbade, and I quickly want to demonstrate what I mean by using an automatic application like this, um, design and built in Excel Visual Basic, built using Excel Visual Basic by me for farm business owners. You'll see an example of how one can make entries into it. It doesn't have automated forms like my more sophisticated applications because it's meant to be a bit cheaper. But I want you to see how entries are made into it and then trended in graphs and in tables or reporting table summaries to show how key performance indicators can be tracked and used to measure the performance of a farm, and most importantly predict or anticipate things that are going wrong. Right, we have a table of entries here. This application actually caters for 3 pens. This can, the original farm it was built for holding a capacity of about 12,000 layers. Now the idea is that there are 6 cage lines provided for on a daily basis per pen. Now this particular farm, this demo farm, because this is not a real farm, this is a dummy data, has 3 cage lines are contain birds. This is the opening stock of birds, and this is the first day of the year, so this is kind of, think of it as a theoretical assumption. And basically what happens is I'll show you a paper form, a form that's printed out on paper that normally is customized in conjunction with the farm owner. We design it to suit the farm, and basically what the operatives do is on a daily basis they fill in this form, okay, and when they fill in the form they pass it on to the farm manager or the owner of the farm, who sits down probably at night and posts the data into the record into the application spreadsheet. So for instance, there will be a column where they would have filled in the number of dead birds, mortalities, losses, missings, calls, transfers, purchases, and then you have your flock record in terms of the closing number of birds. Okay, so then it does automatically for every cage line, it does the mortality rate. So that, I mean, on a daily basis you begin to get a feel for what your mortality rate looks like. And then of course you have the feed consumed. So basically you convert from number of bags. If it's a 25 kilogram bag, you do the multiplication and come up with the kilogram version or the kilogram value, and then you post it in here, and it immediately for that cage line computes the grams per bird. We know what our standard consumption of feed per bird per layers should be in a day. Generally it's supposed to be between 100 and 110, preferably lower, so long as you get your results from your bird in terms of number of egg production. So what you are supposed to do is continually monitor that as you post your entries. This application simply does it for you. And if you look here on a daily basis, they actually get to compare each of the cage lines to see if there's any place, for instance, you want to check that you're not overfeeding. There's no point feeding more than you need to feed and you're still getting the same number of eggs. So for instance, you know, the cage line 1 seems to have a slightly higher consumption of birds. They have a lower number of birds, and yet the farm owner needs to consider seriously dropping the number of bags fed, because right now the birds are producing, let's see, Hen Day Production Percentage of 70%, but I mean, he could play around with dropping 1 or 2 bags to see if it comes down to round about 103, 105. That would be more reasonable. So again, this gives the farmer the opportunity to keep a finger on what's happening in terms of feedings. So if his boys are overfeeding or wasting feed, he'll see it from here in terms of bags used. Now you have the eggs collected as well, 9 a.m. in the morning and 3:30 p.m. in the evenings, and the application does this. If you have pieces left, it adds up the pieces and makes them up into a crate if possible. Now it then computes what they call the Hen Day percentage. Hen Day production percentage is an important parameter that you use to measure the performance of layer birds, and you're able to see over time if your birds are doing well. Ideally you want to aim for something 70% and above, and then you certainly don't want to see something in the neighborhood of 50s or the lower 60s. For instance, you see a figure like this, 63, 62, and then it's going down. Actually, you begin to ask yourself what's happening with these birds in cage line 2, okay, because these are the cage line 2 birds which are showing this kind of dropping, progressively dropping Hen Day production percentage. Again, because you don't have to use a calculator to do it yourself, the application is doing it for you. You get to instantly see this. All you do is punch in your data, you keep your brain free, and then you begin to look at your data and see possibilities and trends. And then over time, in your mind, you begin to become familiar with what the general figures are. Somebody asks you, oh, what's the Hen Day percentage you achieve with your bird? And you say, oh, well, between this and that, because you see it every day. Now your feed to egg conversion ratio, this is what you have here. How many grams of feed does it take you to get 1 egg? You know, so you begin to look at it and say, okay, well, when I feed maybe 5, whatever, you do the conversion, and then that's what's calculated here. It basically does the feed to egg conversion ratio, and so that tells you how efficiently you are getting eggs from the feed you give to your birds. Now you could go here and also look at reports it automatically generates. For instance, there's an operations report. You can look at the operations report on a daily basis, So long as there's data in that table corresponding to that date you choose from the drop menu, you can instantly get the grams per bird showing package line, and it does this in summary. If there was pen 2, pen 3, you will have that. We don't have any birds there. That's why we're looking at only pen 1. And if you look on this column here, this is where you have your hen day percentage. You can see again for that day, it's summing it up. You have your egg collections. You have a summary here. You can actually print this out in form of a graph. You can do it on a weekly basis and say, all right, I want to see week 2. If there's data there, it plots it also. Now, if there's no data there, what it does is it just shows you the zeros. But if the data there, you have the figures coming out, and you can see here, okay, giving you that. You have your grams per bird, you have your mortality rate, and all of that. Now, you go up again, and you can also generate the KPI charts. Now, this is one I really find interesting because you're able to visually, instantly assess how your birds are doing. So for the month, for instance, you can see the mortality rate is plotted next to the hen day percentage. You see it in graphs. Now, on the right here, this is an interesting one. You can see the monthly hen day percentages per pen. In other words, you have cage 1, cage 2, and cage 3 all compared next to each other. You can see they're all close to each other, but you can see that generally, let's take a look at the legend. I believe, if I'm correct, yeah, cage line 2, that's the red one. That's the one that's lagging behind here. Now, if you begin to see anything that drops out of this range here, you begin to say, oh, what happened to that group of birds? Now, because this happens every day, you can actually just generate this thing by clicking here. It will automatically generate the updates of the values in the table. It means that at any point in time, so long as you're making your entries into the table we just left, you can actually have this graph generated. Now, if you have birds in pens 2 and 3, what happens is this particular one here, this particular table here, clicking here for any particular month will automatically generate the hen day percentage for each bird, hen day production percentage values for each bird as group of birds in each pen, and you actually get to compare the pens side by side and see the performance. So imagine if you choose to do different things to the different groups of birds, you can measure the performance in graphs and print this out. Actually, you can actually print out these graphs. The application also does it also generates a financial summary. There's a table where you make your entries for expenses and also income. You can enter your sales of birds and sales of eggs, and you can also enter your expenses. There are various expense headings specified in the application, and then you come here and you can decide I want to generate a report for February. It does monthly summaries, labels it, and then puts the values. We don't have anything in February, so let's go back to January. We do have some dummy data in there, and you can see it does that. But this is not an accounting application. These are just financial summaries, which you can then use for your accounting application. Or, of course, I customize that to do accounting stuff in conjunction with the accountant. For clients. But basically, this is more of an operations, I call it an enterprise information system. It's designed to help you take intelligent farm management and planning decisions. Okay, you're able to monitor the key performance indicators on your farm, chart them, plot them, post them in tables and summarize them, and it gives you a better idea of exactly how your farm animals are doing. Now, if you are interested in learning more about this, or in how I can do something of that nature for you, or you'd like to learn how to do it yourself, get in touch with me. My information is here. That's my phone number in Benin Republic, and when I'm in Nigeria, this is the phone number. Or call, you go to my website as well, spontaneousdevelopment.com, and probably click on the blog or the contact form link, and then you can get across to me. Thank you.